Pay attention.
Welcome to this training mission, in which we will cover programming and scrolling through MPDs and MPCDs. Please wait for everything to load properly. A very handy feature of the Strike Eagle is the ability to program all of the displays, which will allow you to switch through them with a flick of a finger, literally. On top of that, you can set them up specifically for each master mode, but we'll cover that in a different lesson. Let's say we want to have navigation-related data on the left MPD. Go ahead and press push button 11 to access the menu 1 page. To program the displays, you have to box the program legend above push button 6. Press it now. With program boxed, you can choose 3 displays across all 3 menus and set them up in any order you like. Except, since I'm the instructor today, we're going to set them up the way I like. Anyway, to do so, simply press the push buttons next to the displays you want to program. Select HSI as your first screen with push button 3. You see that your selection and its sequence number is now displayed in the middle of the screen. Next, select 2s with push button 13. Third, press ADI with push button 1.
Why is this fucking Facebook still running?
On second thought, 2s is not that useful for navigation. Fortunately, it's very easy to deselect any of the screens. Just press their respective push button once again. 13 in this case. Do it now. 2s disappeared from the list. Note that ADI did not move up. You just have a free slot number 2. Let's fill it with Tactical Situation Display. Push button 5.
I got too much shit open, that's what's going on.
To leave programming mode, simply press push button 6 to unbox the program legend. To leave programming mode, simply Good. Now let's move to the right MPD, where we will set up our radars and weapons. Press push button 11 to bring up the menu. Now press push button 6 to enter programming mode. First select air-to-air radar with push button 15. Next select air-to-ground radar with push button 14. Third, I want you to add the air-to-ground delivery page, which is under menu 2. Therefore, you need to press push button 11 first to access it. Now press push button 2 to fill up the list.
I tried to do that and that didn't work.
Good. Deselect program with push button 6. Finally, the MPCD. Let's get that stick out of the way. That's better. Enter the menu by pressing push button 11. Now enable programming with push button 6. Select T-Pod, twos, and armament pages in any order you like. Good. Deselect program by pressing push button 6. Now let's move on to the last part of this lesson, where we talk about scrolling through programmed displays. You do this by short pressing the castle switch towards the display you want to change. For the left MPD, each actuation of the castle switch left will move you through your program displays in sequence from 1 to 3 and then back to 1. Try it now.
See, you know,
For the right MPD, the first actuation will bring up the twos page. Subsequent ones will scroll through the displays you set up. Note that if there's a pause longer than 5 seconds between presses, the next one will bring up the twos page again. For the MPCD, the first actuation of the castle switch down will bring up the ADI page. Then things will work just like the right MPD.
No, that's not working.
Very good. That's it for this lesson. Setting up the displays the way you want them in both the front and the back
double
seat,
click.
which we'll
Double
cover in
click.
another lesson, reduces the workload and makes it easier for you to stay in front of the jet when things start getting dicey out there. And let's be honest, it gives you something to do on those long, boring flights where nothing ever happens. Wish they would implement some version of Battleship that you could play with your Wizzo. Maybe they'll add that later along with the sniper pod. We can only hope.
So to switch it is double click. I don't think that's what he said. So maybe it isn't double click. It's not double clicks. How do you these damn radios. God, the radios are ridiculous. Excuse me. Let me go back through that again. Using the stupid radios. Man, I feel like I'm coming down with a cold.
Alright, welcome to this training mission. Please wait for everything to load correctly. This time, we will look at the radios in the F15E Strike Eagle and how to use them properly. I assume by now you've read the relevant parts of the manual, so we won't be talking about the capabilities of the radios or their frequency ranges. Now, before we proceed, I also strongly suggest that you map the HOTUS mic forward and the HOTUS mic aft switches.
I think
These will
I've
be
done
used
that.
to transmit and receive on the pry, left radio in the forward position, and the aux, right radio in the aft position. Let me know when you have that done. Alright, first thing first, turning on the radios. The status of the radios is displayed next to push button 5 and 6. You should currently see an off indication there. There are several ways to turn on the radios. By using the radio submenu push button 1, by inputting a preset channel, introducing a manual frequency, or, and this is really the easiest one, by simply pushing both channel select knobs. Do this now. With power applied to the radios, you can see asterisks before channel numbers next to the knobs you just pushed. Manual frequencies are now displayed above them next to push buttons 5 and 6. You can use each radio either in the preset channel mode or the manual frequency mode. The asterisk indicates which mode is currently active. To switch between them, you have to use the GREC CM buttons on the UFC. Each press of the button moves the asterisk between manual and preset frequencies. Go ahead and press the left GREC button to switch to manual frequency on the left radio. Good. The asterisk has jumped and now the left radio, which we call pry, is working in the manual frequency mode. Press the left GREC button again to return to the preset channel mode. Turning the channel selector knob is the easiest way to jump from one channel to another, especially if they're close, as an example going from channel 1 to channel 3. Now use the left knob and switch to channel 5 on UHF to tune to the ATIS station.
Of information uniform.
Good. You can increase and decrease the volume using the smaller volume knob. Go ahead and completely silence the ATIS for the time being. Another handy way of switching between channels is entering the desired number on the scratch pad and then pressing the respective channel selector knob. Let's switch to channel 10 on aux, so the right radio, press 1 on the UFC. Now press 0. And push the right channel knob. You should now hear distant radio comms for air-to-air refueling operations. Good. There will be moments during the missions when you will be called to switch to a frequency which was not pre-programmed on the ground and requires a manual input. Actually, it will happen quite often, knowing Baltic Dragon. All the time, really. To enter a manual frequency, simply type it on the UFC. The decimals are not required. And press push button 5 for the left radio or 6 for the right one. Let's try with the simple 251 for the aux radio. Press 2 on the UFC, followed by 5, and then, you guessed it, 1. And now, press push button 6. To be able to transmit and receive on the manual frequency, we should first enable it by pushing the right GREC button. Do it now.
So complicated.
Hey, it's Wags. Anyway, let's continue with the lesson. For now, turn down the volume on the aux radio.
Yeah, I don't hear shit, bro.
Now, take a look at the bottom line on the UFC display. You should see the previous frequency sitting right in the middle of that line. This is a very neat feature allowing you to quickly jump back to whatever channel or frequency you had before by simply pressing push button 6 again. Do that now.
So all it does is
One more thing
flash.
we should cover is the guard monitoring frequency. The military air distress frequency is 243.0, and the Strike Eagle is capable of monitoring it in the background irrespective of what channel or frequency
This can't
it
be
is currently
working.
using.
It shouldn't flash.
In order to enable guard monitoring, you have to first press the shift button on the UFC, and then press the correct button for the radio you want to monitor guard on. Let's use the left one. Press shift, and left grec. Letter G should now be shown behind the frequency in the fourth line on the UFC display. This means that the pry is now monitoring guard. Crank up the volume a little bit, please.
I've done it too early, so it's gonna error out. Fucking, that's fucking great. Spacebar. Okay, waiting for me to hit spacebar.
Whatever. To disable guard
I'm
monitoring,
not hearing
follow
any of that.
exactly the same procedure. One last thing we should cover briefly is the dedicated radio menu. They are different for both radios, but for now, there is only one important thing you should learn, and that is for the aux. To enter the radio submenu, the scratch pad needs to be clean. Just to be on the safe side, press the clear button twice. Chances are that everything went black on the UFC, so press the menu button once to bring it back. Now press push button 6 to enter the aux radio submenu.
It's a lot to remember,
Check
man.
what most of the options do, or don't do, in the manual. Frankly, most of them don't do anything important, but one important feature here is the ability to switch from the alpha mic frequency to the Fox mic frequency. To do this, press the push button 9 where it says Man AM. It should now say Man-FM. We'll now type in the frequency, and remember
No,
that for aux
it
in
does
FM
not.
mode, you need to use the decimals. Press 3. Now press 1. Decimal. 2. And press push button 6 to introduce the manual FM frequency.
Yeah, that's not. That's not.
Good. Crank up the volume a little bit, please.
Yeah, I hear the sound, but I don't know what's going on here.
That sounds good. Alright, that concludes this training lesson. Well done.
Okay, how do I get this guard off of here?
Oh, and remember, proper radio discipline is super important if you want to try any of the Baltic Dragon campaigns. Same is true for the upcoming Strike Eagle campaign.
Radar and air-to-air mode.
Welcome back. This training mission will serve as a basic introduction to using the PAX, or the Programmable Armament Control Set, in the air-to-air mode. Please wait for everything to load properly. The PAX is your main tool when it comes to setting up and monitoring your weapons. While it obviously shines in the air-to-ground domain, it also has its uses in the air-to-air arena. Alright, without further ado, let's jump straight into it. The air-to-air master mode is set by default, so we can move to the PAX. Press push button 11 on the left NPD to enter the menu page. And now press push button 2 marked ARMT. Don't ask me why it's named ARMT instead of PAX here. I don't know. We are now in the main menu, where you can choose to go to dedicated air-to-air or air-to-ground training or jettison pages. We'll skip the load page in this lesson and focus on the main AA PAX display. Press push button 2 to access it. In the center of the screen, you can see the outline of your jet with all the available stations and information on what is loaded on each of them and what is the status of each missile. As you can see for this sortie, we have one type of each missile that the Strike Eagle can carry loaded on the jet. Now, before we move further, one very important thing for air-to-air combat is the weapon select switch position. It can either be in the gun SMR short-range missile or MRM medium-range missile position. And this setting dictates which weapons are ready to be used and what symbology is shown on the HUD. Go ahead and make sure the MRM is selected.
What the? I know this looks like crap, but I'm testing some stuff. Gun.
This places medium-range missiles into launch priority. You should see that AIM-120 Charlie on Station 7 Charlie is now boxed. Mind you that newer versions of the 120 Charlie will be marked with a V on the display. To switch between the active missiles, short press forward the boat switch on the throttle. As you reject one missile and move to another, have a look at the HUD. The legend in the bottom left window changes, showing you the type and number of available weapons of each kind. Now switch to SRM by moving the weapon mode switch to the center position. You can hear that characteristic growl of the Sidewinder, and Station 8 Bravo is energized by default. Again, you can change the currently selected missile by pressing the boat switch forward. You'll notice a different legend displayed on the HUD for each one. Finally, the guns mode is selected by placing the weapons mode switch in the aft position. This causes the radar to switch into the guns mode and brings up the gun funnel on the HUD. Let me unpause the mission so you can take a few turns to better see it. Okay, enough fun. Now return to the air-to-air PAX page and make sure the MRM is selected.
Ah, god dang it. It won't let me switch. Push button 11. Hmm.
Back to work into our PAX display. Let's have a quick run through all the push buttons and their functions. Push button 1 allows to switch between the high and low gun firing rate. In the high setting, it'll shoot 6,000 rounds per minute. In the low, it's a lousy 4,000 rounds, only 66 per second. The low would normally be used against a ground target, so stick to the high for the air-to-air combat. Push button 2 and 3 let you select the target size and radar cross-section, but I wouldn't worry about it too much in this sim. Push button 4 is the flight member identification and is used for deconfliction with your wingman. All members of the flight select their respective position. On a solo flight, you'd choose 1-1. If you're number 2 in a 2 ship, you'd select 2-2. And if you're number 2 in a 4 ship, you choose 2-4, and so on.
I don't know why this VR
Push button 5 is used for running a built-in test for individual
graphics is
M120
so
missiles. They all automatically undergo this
difficult.
procedure once power is applied to the jet, but the bid can also be manually initiated for each AMRAAM separately. Okay, the last thing we need to cover here is the training mode. Return to PAX main menu by pressing push button 11. As you can see, the training modes are visible next to the push buttons 14 and 15. By boxing one of them, or both, you enable the respective training mode. That means that you can stay in combat mode for air-to-ground, but training for air-to-air, for instance. Go ahead and box the air-to-air training.
What the fuck?
Now return to the air-to-air PAX page. You see on the right side of the display that you're currently in the air-to-air training and air-to-ground combat modes. The AA training legend is boxed. What does it mean in practice? That you get all the symbology and indications normally, but you're not able to physically expend any weapons. To exit the training mode, simply unbox the legend in the main PAX menu.
It's ridiculous, bro.
Okay, feel free to play with the settings. There are a few drones ahead of you that you can shoot down if you wish, but I won't give you the instructions on how to do that in this lesson. Check the manual or use the good old trial and error. Or, I wonder what this button does. That's a good learning method. You're in the sim after all. Enjoy.
Alright, let me troubleshoot this shit. Why?
Oh yeah, don't forget to disable the training mode.
Why does it not show the graphics as I see them? I'm in the lowest graphic setting there is. shit. Sucks, man. I don't get it. I don't understand why this graphics. Why does it do this? Menu. I have no idea why it does this. Like it is literally locked up.